Now let's talk about the major assignment for a while. In past years, this was an assignment located in industry. Now, the industry partner that I had has changed circumstances a bit, and they're just really not able to cope with another 50 or so students descending on them. That's asking too much. So this year, I'm sorry, but it's going to be an internal project to some degree. All right. So projects work well. They work best in groups of 6 or less. And more than 6, and there's usually somebody sitting around with nothing much to do, and it's really hard to find enough work for everybody, particularly on this particular project. So 6 or less people in a group, please. What I want to do is to investigate and describe a quality management principle, or quality assurance principle. Now I'll explain that a bit more in class, and I'll explain it a bit more soon. This set of principles will be published in some public-facing thing, like a wiki or some other repository, so that the world can see what these principles are, and preferably in time UTS can build up a reputation as a place where you can get all these principles of quality assurance. So it's intended to be a public forum, just as if we were publishing a book. The reason why it's going online initially is because that's much more flexible. We can take it down if it proves bad, we can edit them, or we can do all sorts of things. So online publication is pretty good while we're sorting it out. So that's the intention, that it will be public facing. In order to be published, your group work must score a credit or better. Okay, I really don't want UTS to be publishing basically rubbish. Something that merely earns a pass is not good enough. It's got to be better than that. So that's the criteria so far. Personally, I would like to make it that they have to get a distinction or better, but let's not be too harsh about this. Now let's explain this whole thing about why we're dealing with quality management principles rather than specific practices. Now, there are a couple of reasons for it. The whole workplace has changed. The first thing is that quality management in software development started around about the late 80s and the early 90s, particularly with large US defense projects and basically large projects. Now, at that time, all the tools that we have now didn't exist, and quality management was based on ISO 9001 and manual inspection and manual work. We didn't have version control, we didn't have configuration management, we didn't have defect tracking, we didn't have a whole lot of the style checkers, we didn't have the good compilers. So assuring the quality was quite a significant and a very manual effort. Now, most of that is just automated. It's just merely part of the way you do things. I mean, everybody now has a project management tool, whether that's Jira or Trello or Microsoft Project, doesn't matter. You've got them. Previously, people didn't have them. Now that means that people have to plan the projects out and level the resources and come up with some realistic estimates that just didn't happen before. Similarly, particularly with the issue-based or ticket-based systems like Jira and Trello, the standard habit is you start estimating the work. Now that wasn't done before. People put up any sort of rubbish and it just project overruns were a big thing, and lack of schedule is the biggest cause of poor quality. So that problem seems to have gone away. Now, as I said, a lot of the production tools, the configuration management, the defect tracking, version control, the build management, all of that is now automated. Well, if you do all that, the hack work of quality management has been taken care of. And now we're left with other things that we need to do, things that are still manual. Now, a lot of the workplaces has moved toward agile software development. Now, with agile development, the old divisional practices where you had, say, the project team, and separately you had the quality management team, they reported to different people and there was organizational reporting, that's gone away. Now the team is essentially self-contained and self-managed. Now, as a result, they get to choose how they do their work. And this includes not only how they produce the work, but how they check the work. This is great, except that there isn't much to assure any external stakeholders that the qualities have been checked, that the project is going to achieve the quality goals it should achieve. And these are quality goals like reliability or usability, reliability, robustness, security, these kind of things that really are a major part of it. So we need that external reporting, but with a self-managed team, the problem is, well, how do you put that in? The second thing is that the team may not be aware of how different practices can be used to support different quality goals. And to date, that seems to have been taken care of by those people who want to take a software development method, a large software development method, and essentially modify it, tailor it to the circumstances. Now that's a big task, and not everybody's up to it. To do that, you really need to be an expert on software development methods and an expert on software quality management. Now, there's not a lot of them around. Agile teams have a broad expertise, but not that broad. So it'd be useful if we could come up with some things that would help these self-managed teams, and it would seem to me that a good collection of sound principles are a pretty good place to start. So that's what we're going to do. Now for the schedule, it'll start on April 5, where you'll choose teams, pick up teams, and essentially form your teams. Now I don't know exactly how the schedule is going to work. I think on that time we should basically generate, everybody suggest a principle that's worth investigating, and we'll publish all of these. And everybody gets a week to think about it and come back the next week and say, right, we'd like to do this one. Now, I don't particularly want several teams investigating the same principle. It'd be nice if each team investigated a different principle, simply so we could get as many principles covered as we can. So there'll be a certain amount of bidding and sorting out to see who does what, and that probably will be on the following week. Then you get a week to go away and actually investigate. So what does this principle mean, and what is it in the first place, and come back to describe it. And then, as you can see by the schedule there, we'll go through each stage piece by piece until eventually we finish up with a very well documented principle. Not only is it a principle of you should do this, like you should always test your work, yes, but why? What happens if I do? Got any evidence that it works? When should I do it? All this sort of stuff. Give the team the means to argue with management about why they should take the trouble. It'll finish at the end of term, and we'll get what we get. Now the report, I want a fairly succinct, publishable wiki page. Think in terms of a Wikipedia page. If you think of a very informative Wikipedia page, that's about what I want. It can't afford to be too verbose. People don't want to read that much. And yet it has to be extremely informative and extremely well argued. It has to be, the logic of it has to be really, really sound. So that's the size of the thing I'm looking for, and the report will be a distillation of all the work you've done to date. I mean, you've reported it weekly, piece by piece. Now I want it all in one place. So that'll be the report. The presentation, you will present this to another group. So you've reported it piece by piece, and you've had a lot of discussions about it. This time you will present the entire thing in 20 minutes, and 10 minutes for questions. So that should be good fun.